You had you still do, I shouldn't say had, this is present tense, an unbelievable bond with the Philadelphia fans. Yeah. And I said it before, and I wasn't just trying to be, outrageous. You arguably are the most popular Eagle that's ever played. And that's a mouthful for an organization that's been around since 1933, man. Can you just talk about that and how quickly that bond formed between you and the fans here?
It formed pretty quickly. I believe a lot of it is because of the way that I play the game, because of what you talked about earlier, B. That like I didn't take stuff for granted. I grind. I work to earn everything that I got, and that's really been my life. I've had to work and grind for everything.
Later. But without further ado, he's going to be in town. We're looking forward to that coming up in a couple of weeks, or actually next week. He's going to be joining us in town.
Oh, yeah.
For the Brian Dawkins Impact Foundation Penn Oaks Country Club out in Westchester next Wednesday. There he is. Big Doc. What's up, Brian?
I'm absolutely blessed. How you gentlemen doing?
Good, man.
Ultimate weapon, man. There he is. There he is. What's up, bro? How's it going, man?
Look at that,
bless
man.
Up, bless up.
Busted out of that T-shirt. Love it.
Look at him, man. The Incredible Hulk.
I like that pillow too, by the way, Brian.
Oh yeah, that was
strong, man. Yeah,
a lot of this stuff that you see it was Connie. So I can't take credit.
Hey, Doc. I can still remember a few times, either when I had you on my Gun on One podcast or when we do a lot of our Zooms for the Dawkins Impact Foundation leading up to this golf tournament. I will see you sitting at your computer. You going, what happened? And I can see Connie move in. And so you know what? I say that because I feel good that there's so many people out there that are as almost technology as illiterate as I am.
I mean, I've gotten better, obviously. But yeah, you're right. Like if I need my tech assistant, tech assistant, absolutely. Connie, that's her. That's her.
Till I said hello, man. A lot of people don't know everybody knows B Dog is the Weapon X. But I remember Dog, he got there my second year, and he was a second rounder. And I can remember they had to tell him, look, Brian, you're not getting cut. so the 3 years I played with B Dog. Every time he walked into the locker room, he would peek through the doors in the vet and make sure there's not a pink slip in his locker. And that's the way he approached it. The 3 years I played with him, he would peek in there and look. Oh, there's no pink slip there. And this is when even though like he was on that trajectory going up. Even that year we went 3-13, he was still balling because Emmett Thomas made him put him in positions where. You didn't usually put safeties, man, but I can just remember that, and how humbled he was, just being in that locker room, just, all right, I'm still good. And during that time, Connie just had little B. I mean, it was crazy. And and then another thing, remember when our kids played in Pop Warner football and that team was smashing us? They was beating us like 32-0. And they turned around the fans, their parents are like, you guys that's unfair. You guys are teaching their kids how to. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
We were getting crushed. It was me. Corey Detmer also. His son was on the team too, man.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, my son, he instead of paying attention, he's picking up rocks and throwing rocks off the field. He everything but football. You know what I'm saying? Everything but football, man. But that's who I know. That's who I know as far as Brian. That's who I saw his progression, man. Like I said, it's been such a blessing, man, to play with two of the best safeties to ever play the game. Him and Troy Polamalu. I mean, that's a blessing, man. I went through that, man.
No, I appreciate it. And I remember those times as well. And you're right. People don't know that. They don't know that was my mindset. And so I didn't have that mindset for the first couple of years. I've said this many times, and maybe you've heard it before, that I took that same approach every year. Every time I came into camp, I believed I had to earn my position another year. So when I stepped in, and this was all the way to year 9 in Philadelphia, I was like, I have to earn my spot. I have to make sure that they know the safety position is taken care of. So that was my mindset throughout my career, to be honest with you.
And obviously, Brian, it paid dividends. You're a Hall of Famer. But I got to ask you, like, and you've also been a very, very strong advocate and very honest about the mental health and how critical that is too. Did that help or hurt you to an extent? Like, I'm sure it made you hungry and you never took anything for granted, man. But did it also kind of play some mind games that you probably didn't have to put that kind of pressure on yourself? How did that work in the early years before you really established yourself as a superstar?
Well, I use a lot of stuff for fuel is what I did. And, you know, one of the thing that I could have done differently, I should have done better, is having people in my corner that I can talk to about some of the things that I was feeling or going through, or some of the things I had going through in the past, to get some of those things out. I had the availability for those individuals to be that, but I chose not to do it because I grew up in a neighborhood that you suck it up, you deal with it, don't let them see you sweat, right? And you just deal with whatever comes your way and don't ever let people see your emotions. That's how I came up. But that was not a very productive way and healthy way to handle the things that were going on in my life, especially as a rookie going to a new place. A lot was expected of me. A lot was being demanded of me. And I didn't have an outlet. Excuse me. I had outlets. I just chose not to do it. So I wanted to come out and talk about some of the things that I've grown through in my life to help other individuals who may have that same mindset, who may have that same bad perception of how a man handles things, so that they can develop those relationships and have those outlets to be able to share some of the things they're going through. You still can have a beast or killer mentality. You still can grind. I can still go get it. I can still have passion for life. But when there are things that I need to talk about to get out of me, some of the toxins that some of the toxic things that life may throw at you because of some of the treatment by some other people towards you, I need to be able to talk those things out. And I'm in a much better place to do that now.
So first and foremost, how do you handle it today compared to the way you handled it back then? What's been the biggest difference in terms of how you control it now?
Wow. First of all, I know I can.
Okay.
That's the first thing about it, that I know I can. And when you know you can do something, you're more apt to go down that path to have a better conversation with yourself before you give an answer. So I'm cool with silence, the other thing. Like, I'm cool with that pause we just had. I'm cool with silence. So if someone says something to me, and I'll tell you this, I learned and developed this from dealing with some of the media in Philadelphia. So they would ask me, I said some of the media, I didn't say all of them. I said some of the media.
Woo, okay. Woo.
So they would ask me questions that would be trying to lead me down a path that I did not want to go down. So I learned the power of that pause. So take that pause, to take a deep breath, and then I say from a different place how I want the question to have asked, or the direction I want the conversation to go. But that was up to me. So I guess I can say it like this as well, that the direction the conversation goes is dependent on the response that you give. And so that's how I collected myself, taking those pauses. And I do the same thing in life. Someone comes at me a specific way, I feel those emotions, right? The emotions rush me. I just allow myself to process them. Let me slow down. Process them from a different place, so that we can have a better and more productive conversation.
How did you deal with those pressures of being on the field, but then also the pressures of being, home with your family? Because I personally, there was times where, I could have exploded on my family, but I found a way to, to take away from it, maybe going in the garage for a little bit before I got to my family, because the pressure just always there, always there.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I did not do a great job of that early.
Right. None of us did. Yeah.
My rookie year, especially.
Right.
And then understanding that we can't bring that stuff home. So I had to be able to do things in such a way as to separate those two. And I will tell you that the main ingredient that allowed me to do that is my faith. Is me being prayerful, me listening to specific music on the way home to kind of bring me down off of some of the emotions that may have happened at the job, right? All of those things are very important. And then the self-talk I had with myself, because we talk to ourselves quite a bit. And we have to make sure that those conversations that we have with ourselves are positive, are uplifting, are more from a peaceful place, instead of constantly rehearsing that anger, that anger from work, that anger from that meeting that you had with that person. And now you haven't allowed yourself to come down off of those emotions, and you're more apt in those situations to then snap on your children, to snap on your wife, to not have patience in those endeavors. Right. So again, first of all, I knew I could, my faith, and then me choosing to do specific things as I drove home to come down.
B-Dog, tell us about the Brian Dawkins Impact Foundation. What's that all about for people who are curious, who may not know? And obviously you have the tournament here next week, which D Gunn and others will be a part of.
Yeah, it's such a blessing to be able to do some things to bless some people, and that's what the foundation obviously is about. I've been blessed to grow up in a neighborhood with my mom and my dad in the household. I had some friends that I have actually lost young in life to the streets, and those individuals did not have fathers. And so I believe a lot of that, the way that they went, the path that they took, was because of that. So one of the things that the foundation does, and we just started that this year, is through the Caring People's Alliance. And we're going to be blessing single parents, single parents, single moms, and single dads with some of the things that they need to bless their children. So maybe their children wants to do some science camps. Maybe they're very good with art, being an artist, right? So we can bless them with the money to go to these camps, to keep them out of the streets, out of anything that will prevent them from reaching their full potential, and give their parents a peace of mind that they can go do what they need to do, right? The other thing is blessing young adults, I'll call them, high school age young men and women, with some cerebral wellness tools. I don't say mental health because there's so much negativity around it. I call it my cerebral wellness packages. And so what it is really teaching them what mental health really is, the stigma behind it, how to recognize when you need something or when your friend needs something, how to get that help, but also the tools. There's a lot of tools that I wish I would have had when I lost my friend in the ninth grade, and we lost him to the streets. Like I said, I wish I would have known these things when I was tearing up in the classroom. I didn't know why I was getting upset with people or pushing away from people. I didn't know why I was feeling that way. That's because I was mourning, but I had nobody telling me, nobody coming into the school to tell us these things. So there's things that we can do to help us better manage our emotions. We will never get rid of your emotions, so stop trying. Your emotions are here, and they're actually good. But when they go to a negative place, there's certain things that we can do, whether that be journaling, which I do every day, creating yourself a very positive playlist, talking to your self-talk, like I talked about earlier. And there's other things that you can do. Breathing is another very powerful one. There's different things that you can do to help mitigate or bring down your emotions, so you can, again, think and make decisions from a better place.
Hey, Doc, how many schools and families, if you have a rough guesstimate, have you impacted so far?
We have 7 schools in Jacksonville right now, and I believe we have 5 now in Philadelphia. And so that's over 1,000 young adults that we've been able to bless with this program since 2020. So we've been doing this a couple of years now. That's the first thrust into the giving realm when it comes to the foundation. But I think one of the most powerful parts of that, though, is it's not just a classroom thing. It's that they can go online and there's a storybook kind of mode of them seeing a person and then hearing their story. And there's a lot of questions asked of how would you talk to your friend if they're having these type of these situations. And so you're learning how to then have the conversations, which are very uncomfortable if you don't know how to have the conversations to help your friend.
That's fascinating stuff. Go ahead, Big.
And that's online. That's, by the way, that's in the privacy of your own home, around nobody, in the privacy of your home.
That's great, man. In dealing it, people even in a corporate world, you were blessed. You had 2 great defensive coordinators, Emmett Thomas and the late and great Jimmy Johnson, and dealing with them and the expectations that they had on you and they gave you throughout your career with them, man. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. One of the blessings two of the blessings, obviously Emmett and Jim, is that neither one of those individuals did things the way that they are supposed to be done, as far as just kind of black and white, right?
Mhm.
You have a strong safety, you have a free safety, and you're either in the box or you're deep, right? Neither one of them used me that way. Emmett used me as a third corner when I first got to the league. A lot of people don't know this. He used basically I was the nickel. I would play nickel, slot, cover the third receiver, so we can keep certain packages on the field and we would not have to get out of regular. So I did that quite a bit the first couple of years. He also didn't let me settle for good. He never let me settle for good. And I thought I was doing good a lot of the time. He was like, nope,
Right.
you could have done that. With your talent, you should have been doing that. But he wasn't using this kind of language that I'm using.
Right.
Yeah.
Language. And so I was always like, why is he grinding me like this? I knew, and I found out why. It's because he saw something in me that I could not see. And here's the principle that I hope somebody grabs from this, is that sometimes you have to grab the vision of somebody that somebody else has of you until you can come up with a vision for yourself. And that's what I did. I believed in Emmett's vision of me, and I began to go after the vision that he saw for me. And then in that first year, and then into that second year, into that third year especially, I began to say, wow, I see what he's talking about. So I no longer needed his vision. I created visions for myself now. Like I'm going after all of this now, right? And then that's when Jim came along. And Jim is the type of individual that if you have and you show that you have a skill set, he's going to create things to get that out or allow that to help the team, right? And so he literally built the defense, around a safety, and that's unheard of.
Right.
So he began to create package after package after package for me, once again, because of the ability that I showed. And then I was all over the place. That's where obviously Weapon X come in. He's a weapon. I'm a weapon all over the place. So neither one of those individuals were playing checkers. They were both playing chess, the way that I call it.
That's cool. How quickly did you know, Brian, that Jim Johnson was kind of at a different level than the way a lot of other, not Emmett, but a lot of other defensive coordinators operated? Did it take pretty short time for you to figure out this guy's got something here?
You said Jim or Emmett?
Yeah, Jim. Yeah,
Jim. It was pretty early in the process. First of all, I began to blitz. Even in his regular packages, the safeties blitzed a whole lot more. And I was like, yes, I'm going to stop covering all the time like I was doing with Emmett, and I actually get a chance to blitz a lot more. But then he began to just start asking me questions. And then we would come into the meetings, and he would have this new package and that new package featuring me or things. And so early on, I recognized right away that this cat is going to allow me to just absolutely just have a party on the field. Like he just been. And the other thing with him, I believe that he knew that I would do anything, really anything.
That's saying a lot.
Make his packages work. So whatever it is I need to do with my body, he knew this, and this is probably those screws loose that I say I have. He knew I would do anything to make his packages work, and that's why my number was called so many times in the fourth quarter to help us win games.
Well, it wasn't just you that took notice of it, because ask Deuce. You can ask Deuce the same thing. There were times where Troy Polamalu would pull us both aside, and here is another Hall of Famer saying, "What made Brian such a good player?" I mean, I know he was an athlete; he could do this, do that, and he would pick our brain trying to figure out what was the difference between him and you. I said, "There's really no difference. It's just that Dawkins just never understood what he couldn't do. And that was the difference between I seen most players. He didn't know what he couldn't do because he didn't allow anybody to tell him what he couldn't do. And if you can go and you can ask Ducey this right now. That's how Troy really started coming to his own, by just talking to me and him and just really trying to further himself as a player, just because what he saw you do, man. No, you changed a lot. You turned a lot of heads.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. I literally, the way that I played the game, I stopped at some point. I stopped competing. I stopped competing against other people, and just in my mind, I'm going to create.
But what do you mean by that? What people were you talking about?
So when you are playing a position, if you're a safety, I'm going to compete against other safeties.
Okay, all right, yeah,
compete against those other safeties. to see who's kind of the best, right? Now, I'm a competitor. That's how that's how we all do it. But really at some point, and probably around year 6, 7 in my career, it switched. Like I really began to like create how I'm creating a different way of playing the position because of the talent that I have. I'm not saying that to myself, but this is what I was literally doing because of the way that I was blessed to have all of these skills. And so if you look at every statistical category, there's a significant number in there. The way that I blessed the field, because I didn't want to just have success in one area. I didn't want to be just good in interceptions. I didn't want to be just good in big hits. If you look at, I would do stuff like this, and I would have as a goal for mine for the year to only miss 3 tackles.
Wow,
that would be a goal for me. And there's many years I did just that. I missed 3 tackles. So in my mind, I could do that. And so if I'm making every tackle, that means we're getting off the field. I'm not giving up yards after contact. And so, I mean, there's man, I can tell you so many games that I played against with myself. So I began to like compete against myself about tackling a running back. I'll give you this last thing. I know I'm kind of going all over the place here. So one of the ways that I graded myself on film, Jim and whoever graded, they would grade tackle or assist, right? I would grade, did I win that down? Did I win that tackle? And I win the tackle if I make you go backwards or sideways. That's how I win that down. I won that down, right? So that was the competitor in me competing against myself to say that when I hit this dude, he wins if he hits me and we go back that way a couple more yards. I still made the tackle, cool, but in my mind, he won.
So that was a plus in your coach's head, but in your head, it was a negative.
It's a negative.
Wow.
Hey, Doc, as demanding as Jim Johnson was, at what stage of your tenure with Johnson did he give you the freedom to have more input in terms of how to utilize you, or maybe how to scheme certain offenses when you play them?
It'd probably be around year 3.
Okay.
Probably around year 3. And that was really because of me suggesting stuff. Like I would do things the way that he would ask me to do it. And then I would be like, but if I did it this way, if I cheated this way, if I showed, for instance, if I have the left half of the field and the offense we're playing holds the snap long, that I can actually show in the A gap and get to my spot. I can show in the A gap, like I'm gonna be blitzing off the left side or the right side in the A gap, right? And I still can get to my spot, right? And I would tell him, like, if I can do it that way, but you know, if I do it this way, it will actually make this line slide my way, right? So they let other people come scot-free on the other side. The only thing is we have to get back there. You have to get back there, but the corner to that side also has to know that I'm disguising. So he's going to trap the first flat or hot route, right? But because I'm disguising, he has to know that he has to play a little softer, right? To give me a chance to get back so he can trap that hot route. So stuff like that we began to discuss, and it just became the point that that's why when you talk to people about Jim Johnson's defense, it was like, you know, they were always blitzing. No, we weren't always blitzing. We just were moving around so much, testing things out in practice that cats were running scot-free because they thought we were blitzing when we weren't. So it's just things like that he allowed me to ad-lib that made me so excited. You know, that's why man, my goodness, I used to be so excited to go in to see like game film, to go in to see the game plan right away, right? Because in my mind, I'm going in and my thought is, how am I going to be used this week? I can't wait to see how I'm going to be used this week.
That's fascinating. Brian, you still do, I shouldn't say had, this is present tense, an unbelievable bond with the Philadelphia fans. Yeah. And I said it before, and I wasn't just trying to be, you know, outrageous. You arguably are the most popular Eagle that's ever played. And that's a mouthful for an organization that's been around since 1933, man. Can you just talk about that and how quickly that bond formed between you and the fans here?
It formed pretty quickly. I believe a lot of it is because of the way that I play the game, because of what you talked about earlier, B, that like I didn't take stuff for granted. I grind. I work to earn everything that I got. And that's really been my life. I've had to work and grind for everything that I got. Things have not necessarily come easy to me. I was never the biggest in the neighborhood, so I always had to outwork other people. And I took that same mindset into the National Football League. So when people talk about Philadelphia, the mindset of the working attitude, what do they say? It's blue collar.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They work. So here you have a worker that's not going to complain. I'm not going to be complaining about what's not right or what somebody else did. I'm going to take responsibility for mine, right? And you're not going to hear me complaining about stuff. Right? I'm just going to suck it up, deal with it, do what I need to do better, right? And so I believe that, and the fact that I played with my emotions, man. Like, I didn't care. I was having such a party on the field. I was enjoying life so much to be blessed to be on the field. And in my mind, if a fan all of a sudden knew the game plan on Sunday, they had the athleticism, how would they play the game? Would they be quiet? Would they hand the ball back to the ref? No. If that's the only time you get to play football, you would act a fool. Like, you would literally act a fool, party and dance, and you would make plays and just you would be all over the place energy-wise, right?
Right.
That's how I played the game.
Hey, Doc, when you look back at your career, who was your all-time single most favorite teammate?
That's just quick. That's Troy. That's
okay.
Big brother Troy. Like, it's and it was funny that at one time when I was an executive with the Eagles, I was going back looking at some old tape of myself, and at certain times on film, I couldn't tell Troy from me because I was mimicking him so much in my technique and my bump and run and all that stuff. So I couldn't tell in stance who was who because the film was also so grimy that I couldn't see.
Yeah.
So it's just. But literally, a lot of the things that early on in my career, I began to model after him, watch how he handles the media, right? Because he was the voice. He was the voice, right?
Yeah.
He was, if you had any questions to ask, like I was so happy at the time. I'm like, yes. Oh, y'all got tough questions? No, Troy. Like, Troy got it. Troy. Yeah. And so I watched him, and I watched how he handled himself. I watched how he handled, his business and how he was a professional and his technique. He was very technically sound. And so I would ask him questions, and he would basically took me under his wing to kind of, teach me about how to be a professional. So I would say right off the bat, it would be Troy. And I still call him my big brother to this day.
It's funny, man, because Troy wasn't really a vocal guy. What I saw was I was on the offensive side of the ball, so I didn't spend as much time as you did with him. But Troy was, you could just tell he was just the consummate professional. I can remember him and Irvin Fryer. I mean, I saw some of the most classic battles in practice.
Go at it, Jack.
With him and Troy. I mean, I thought they were, and they both came from Miami, I think, too. And they would just go at it in practice. I say that was a battle right there, man. So I'm glad you told me that, man. Because now that I look at it, man, that's an awful lot of knowledge that you can get from a guy like him. First rounder, played as long as he did.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And now look at him now, man. He's one of the top 2-3 guys in the entire National Football League.
And it doesn't surprise me.
No, I'm not either. I'm not surprised one bit from what I know about Troy. Hey, Doc, I have to ask you about the current state of this team that you love. When you played and you look at the guys you played with, you guys put new meaning to the word defense when you played. Give me your breakdown of what you saw from a Jonathan Gannon defense in 2021.
Well, for the year, I don't know who they are.
Okay.
I don't know who they are. They started off one part of the year doing one thing, and then the next half of the year they did a different thing. So I don't know who really they are, right? Mm-hmm. Very passive, giving up a whole bunch of yards and just allowing people to just dink and dunk them to death and take, all up and down the field in the beginning. Then they begin to blitz towards the second half of the season. So they flipped the script of how he called the defense. So again, I don't know who he really is. So we'll find out who he is this year. I see they're going out trying to sounds like they're going to, try to beef up the secondary as well now at this point. So they're doing some things to help them potentially be a more aggressive defense. And that was the first half of the season. I was like, be honest with you, I was about to pull my hair out. I mean, that was unbelievable. You can't, there's no way in no part of football that you allow starting quarterbacks to see what you're going to wind up in over and over and over again. That's literally, and B, you know this, that's walkthrough. That's what you guys do in walkthrough. You say, this is what a safety is going to be. These are going to be the spots you can hit. And that's what they kept doing. They were lining up in it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But what that also does, it puts a whole lot of pressure on your players, because you're asking them to do up and above, because the quarterback knows where the weaknesses in your defense, because they've walked through it and they've watched it on film. So again, we'll find out who they really are this year with some of the additions they've added.
See, that's two great Eagles that said the same thing. Seth Joyner screamed it all last year.
I can only imagine what Seth said.
Oh, you don't want to know. You don't want to know what Seth said.
And now B-Dog said the same thing.
I don't think B-Dog would use that kind of language that Seth used. That's okay. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a different story. Brian, I got to ask you, when you left in 2008, and I remember when you came back and everything, how emotionally trying was that for you to put on another uniform after all those years with the Birds?
I explain it like this now because I know it like this now, that I literally went through mourning is what I did. I went through a period of mourning. I was sad. I was crying often for no reason. And I literally was going through mourning because in my mind, I had lost a family member. Right. So when you lose a family, and I'm not trying to equate it to anybody losing, please don't think that I'm actually saying it. But in my mind, because of the love that I have for that city, I lost a family member. Right. So in my mind, I'm tearing up, I'm crying, and I'm calling different people to see, what's going on. Right. But ultimately, I had to, first of all, forgive those individuals. And it wasn't for them, as we know, it was for me, right? And I went to a place that I began to do things from a place that says that I'm going to now go prove me right, not prove them wrong. Because I don't want anybody to have any power over my decisions or anything going forward. So that's for somebody. Somebody needed that. And so when I came back to Philadelphia, though, I was emotional. That was the first and only time that I had never I didn't come out for warm-ups. That's the first and only time, because I couldn't. Man, I was crying. I was in there crying, and I couldn't control myself, like, emotionally. I had a couple of my guys, Vernon Fox, come in and had to pray for me. Like, it was tough going to that place and going into the visiting locker room. And then coming out having to play. But once I came out to play, it was on. Right, I'm gonna flip that switch and go. But going back, I couldn't come out for warm up. So yeah, that was extremely tough. Learned a lot. Learned a whole lot about myself and how to do things differently going forward. But it was extremely, extremely painful.
The day you got traded, I remember you were gracious enough to come on live with me on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and we did a special show, because nobody else got to Brian Dawkins, but us that day. And, I asked you questions, you answered questions, and I can tell you were getting emotional. And then all of a sudden, I've never had this happen to me before or since. In the middle of the interview, Dawkins goes, D-Gun, I got to go, and just hung up. And then we're on air like, we'll be right back after this.
I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
And I know how much it hurt you.
I know how much it hurt. I couldn't find the words, and it was best for me to not say anything if I'm in an emotional place, because it I could have said something that I would have regretted. So I just decided that it's time for me to shut this down.
You've answered this question for me a lot of times also, and we have a lot of new followers here, as you can see in our chat room, and I've got to ask you for a lot of them. I've asked so many ex-players this, but you in particular, because of your pedigree and what you've accomplished as a professional athlete, why are you not coaching in the game today? I love this answer.
So couple of things. The first and the ultimate is I could never make Connie a single mom again. Because we spend so much time away. I know I did anyway, because I was, the way that I played the game, how physical I was usually in somebody's training room or getting it works and IV treatment. I was always getting something done to my body to get me back right to go. That Connie basically was a single mom, so I couldn't do that to her again. The other thing is this: when I got a chance to be an executive, and I was in the building a whole lot of times late, doing different things, I would see those dudes and how much time they put in, and I was like, man, there's no way in the world that I can do that. Like, oh my goodness, they're watching tape, and sometimes tape beginning to watch them, right? So like, I'm like, I can't. There's no way I can do that. And then lastly, but what I'm blessed to do for people, I could not do that if I'm in one spot. If I'm under some organization, I wouldn't be able to bless people the way that I'm blessing them right now. So that would probably that's kind of the ultimate. My calling is not to be coaching from that level. It's to be coaching from a broader level.
Well,
go ahead, Ben.
This is my last question, bro. When did you know that you transcended just being a regular football player and became a Hall of Famer? Because I mean that's a transition that I could have never done that. I wasn't in that position in my life, or I wasn't that good of an athlete. But you knew early you were good. But when did you know that you really transcended and became a Hall of Famer?
I didn't.
You didn't? Wow.
No, I didn't. I'm telling you, my mindset was to grind. My mindset was to keep my head down and to get better. How can I get better? What are some of the things I can do in the off season to get better? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to increase doing? Is there something new that technological thing that I can now add to my repertoire? So I was constantly trying to get better. What are things that I need to eat? Is there's a hyperbaric chamber bought me one of those. So I'm constantly trying to gain and get better. And then, and ultimately along the way, I'm also like thinking about my teammates. I'm thinking about y'all, right? So how can I be an shining example to those who are coming behind me to do things differently? So my mind was, how can I make sure that I'm a quality citizen for fans to observe and want to model themselves after? So I'm in that mind space. So I was literally not thinking about that until probably when I got to the Broncos, and people kept saying future Hall of Famer Brian Dawkins,
right.
Hall of Famer. Then you're like, wow. Now you can then I kind of pick my head up, and then you kind of look at you, wow. You know what? I might have a chance to actually do that.
Yeah, I'm blessed, man. Yeah,
but in the interim, man, I'm telling you, I was grinding, man. I was literally grinding, and my definition for grinding, I've learned, is different from a lot of people, man.
Right. Yeah.
My definition for grinding is different.
Hey, I think one of the greatest compliments to you that could ever be given was a few years after you left, Joe Banner said one of the biggest executives' mistakes he ever made was allowing Brian Dawkins to leave Philadelphia. He wouldn't admit it at the time, but he came to a realization that he had made a mistake. And Joe Banner doesn't openly admit stuff like that a lot, as you know.
Yeah.
But for him to say that about Brian Dawkins, you knew what Brian Dawkins meant to this organization.
Let me tell you one of my another part of my mindset, how I operated.
Right.
First of all was my contract situations. All right. Contract situations. When I got a contract, I went and I was going full steam ahead to get the next one. So I wasn't concerned with this one. I got that one. Thank you for that. But I'm going to prove that you were right by keeping me here. But now I'm going to go get this next one. That was my mindset. And then ultimately, I always wanted to represent myself in such a way as a player and a person to make letting me go be the hardest thing you ever do. That was my mindset. So if you're saying that means that I did exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to represent myself and my family and the God that I serve in such a way that the person who wants to move on from me, it's the toughest decision they ever have to make in their life.
Man, that's awesome. Brian, I got to ask you, I know you weren't on the field and that would have been the ultimate, but you were an executive at the time when they finally won it. And you delivered an unbelievable message right to the camera, right on the field to the people of Philadelphia. But what did that night mean to you as someone who, let's face, I mean, your blood is green, right? I mean, I know you had some great years with the Broncos, but what did that mean to you?
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And it's hard for me to truly articulate to people on this side now of how much of that I saw coming. Like I can see some of these things. And I told G Gun, I told you.
Yes, you did. Yeah, he in training camp that 2017 season. When Doc and I are standing on the practice field in training camp, I said, Doc, what do you think about this team? He says, I don't know, but there's something special about this team. And I said, come on, Doc. I mean, they just come off a 6-10 season, first year of Doug Peterson. I said, come on, man. I said, you got people screaming. They want Doug Peterson fired before 2017. And Doc says, D-Gun, I'm telling you, there's something special about this team. And lo and behold, look what they did.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so the process of that was I'll say it like this. It's hard for you to have conversations with people when you're winning about things they need to change. That's just the truth, because we had lost so many close games, and then we were in all of those games in fourth quarter that now individuals like myself, we can have tougher conversations with people about things that they can't see. One of the hardest thing it is for a person to be, a lot of times, to see outside of a picture frame when you're in it, right? So they sometimes can't see some of the things that they need to change in order for the team to be better. So now individuals like myself, I can then ask and talk to them on a different level about some things that they need to change. Because it's hard for me, Barrett, if I told you to run hard in practice and you see me not running hard, and I tell you to run hard, or I ask you to run hard, what would you be like?
Right. Well, how come you're not doing it? Yeah,
exactly,
right.
Yeah.
But when you see me busting my hump, running so hard that I have to get IVs, right? And then when I ask you to do something, what are you willing? You're more willing to then come with me and we'll do this thing together. Not you doing it without me. It's now we're doing this thing together. That's what I saw. What was the relationship between you and Malcolm at the time? So because that's I mean, he was in that transition period of really taking over as the face of that defense. Yeah. During that time. So the things that I say with guys, two guys, is between me and them. And if they decide to talk about some stuff, it's on them. But yeah, we did have some conversation. The thing that I wanted to do for Malcolm, though, I wanted to stay out of like the light as much as possible.
Right.
I did not want people to be looking at me and him at the same time at any given time. I wanted him to be the focal. I wanted it to be about Malcolm, right? I wanted him to have his spot. He have his time. I've had mine. I've been blessed to do my thing. This is about Malcolm. This is about him growing as a leader and as a player to help the team do exactly what they did.
Awesome. Well, Brian, tell us a little bit, and we appreciate your time today. You've been very kind with it. About the upcoming golf tournament you have, the Brian Dawkins Impact Foundation, Penn Oaks in Westchester next Wednesday. Give folks some information, website, whatever they can do to contribute.
They can donate. Yeah.
How can they help?
So you can go to briandawkins.com to find out all this information. Everything is on there. Okay. And then you'll see, some of the individuals that'll be there. We're going to have and B, this. One of the things that we miss as players is the locker room.
Yep, exactly.
It's some of the things that happen in the locker room. Some of the conversations that happen in the locker room. So I'm looking forward to the locker room coming back and getting together, and you'll have a chance to be a part of that. If you come out to the soiree and there's a bunch of tickets still left for the soiree, you'll be able to meet some of these guys. And we have a bunch of individuals coming out who are gracious to spend their time out there with us. And ultimately it's to bless those families that I was talking about, those people that I was talking about, those young people, that they'll be able to see life differently. And I don't know how much time we have, and I can give you a quick story. So one of the things that has blessed me in my life is someone blessed me with the opportunity to go to a camp. It was an FCA camp in North Carolina, basketball camp, my 11th grade year, and we couldn't afford it. So somebody paid for a scholarship for me to go to that camp, for me to experience what I had experienced. And in that camp, we were kind of led down the path of how to study the Word of God, how to journal. That's the first time ever hearing the word and talking about the word journaling, right? Just during that time. But also, I saw a neighborhood that I wanted to live in. I saw a specific way I wanted my family to operate in, because I had seen my father and how hard he was working, and he's a hard worker. So that told me that hard work by itself does not get you where you some of the things that people actually think. It's not hard work by itself. It's other things. So what I wanted, I came up with that vision, and that became the thing that I began to chase. So now some of these other individuals that I was maybe hanging out with, if they're going to prevent me from reaching this vision, I can't hang out with these cats no more. I'm good. Y'all go ahead. I'm good. Right. Because I got this vision. I know how I want my family to live, me and my family to live. Fast forward to now, I want to give that same opportunities to these young people. I want them to see things outside of their communities. This is limited. This thing is not. Your imagination. This is not. So I really want to allow them to see outside of their community, to feel it, to have the emotions of it. So they chase that. Come up with a vision for themselves, and they chase that. That's literally what the foundation really is wrapped around. Is allowing people to get the resources, absolutely, all of those things, but to get a vision of things that are different that they can have.
Hey, Doc, my last question to you. Last October, you and I were on a discussion panel in front of 500 or 600 people at Rowan University, talking about your life and a book you had just recently released. How's the book been doing?
It's doing well. That's by the best. I'm still doing my pub work. So, but it's doing well. It's doing well. And I get so many DMs from people who read some of the story and certain things stand out for them from the book. And that's what it was about. Every chapter, I wanted something for you to pull something for yourself to help you wherever you find yourself.
That's awesome, man.
It's great stuff. Brian, listen, man, we can't thank you enough for the amount of time you gave us, for all the work that you're doing, for the memories, what you continue to give back to this community, man. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
I'll see you Tuesday, Wednesday.
Indeed. And gentlemen, I just gave you the things that we're doing. That's not what we're planning on doing going forward, but we don't have time for all of those things. So again, just know when you bless the foundation, you're blessing so much more than just those programs that I just mentioned. There's other things down the road, learning centers and stuff like that we're going to be doing to, again, really bless people's futures, bless their nows, absolutely. But we're trying to bless their now for their future.
Awesome. Brian, thanks.
Awesome, man.
Thanks, man. Wish you all the best. Looking forward to you being in town next week. Thank you, Brian.
All right. Appreciate you.
Take care. That is Brian Dawkins.
Hey, man. I can remember when the rumor first came out, and Doc was still an Eagle, that particular season might be his last season with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah,
his contract was coming up, so he allowed me to do a sit-down interview with him up at Lehigh when it was still up in Lehigh. So I'm sitting down and I'm just going to have football conversation about Brian, and I'm asking questions about going out with a bang and a blaze of glory. And in the middle of the interview, now we all knew Brian was a passionate football player on the field. But in the middle of the interview, he breaks down and starts crying. So my producer's standing there. He's like, whoa. And then the Eagles PR staff is off to the side, and they're determining whether or not they're going to step in and stop the interview and let Brian regain his composure. And I'm looking at the PR staff. If you step in and stop this interview, we got a problem.
Right.
And he kept talking, and the interview ended up great. I'm like, and so when we finished the interview, I'm standing there with my producer. I believe it was Neil Slotkin at the time. And we're like, can you believe what we just got? So I immediately texted his wife and said, Connie, I'm doing this interview with Brian, and he breaks down and starts crying. And she goes, D-Gun, he always cries. I'm like, just burst my bubble. I'm like, D-Gun, he's always crying about something. I'm like, what? Really? Oh, man, but it still was great for us because nobody else had it.
Hey, man.
But I was like, but I didn't know that emotional side of Dawkins. We knew the passionate side as a football player. And, I must say, Brian Dawkins doesn't get close to a lot of people, but he and I have had some incredible conversations. And my greatest gift I've ever received from a Brian Dawkins is the man gave me 2 autographed jerseys, one Philadelphia Eagle and one when he played with Denver. I still have, and I keep those at a safe place. It may never be seen. That's how much I cherish those jerseys.
Says it all, man. And Barrett, you had the good fortune to be his teammate.
Oh, my goodness.
And a good friend of his. I mean, amazing.
Amazing
human being, man.
All the questions we asked Doc, I wanted to ask him. Doc, tell me about the story about you sleeping on Barrett Brooks' couch. I forgot to ask you all the questions we asked.
Bro, everybody made fun. Bro,
man.
Just imagine this. Hollis Thomas comes to my house because I invite those guys over for because at the time all those guys were single or their wives and stuff were back home. But Thanksgiving, they come to my house. Him, Hollis Thomas, Bobby Taylor, all of them come to my house. Me and the wife, we cook, all this food from everything. We cook like 10 sweet potato pies.
Woo!
Hollis Thomas comes up, grabs a whole pie, and it's aluminum, and folds the aluminum in half like you fold a taco, and twisted the pie and
Come
bent
on,
over
man. Come
and
on,
ate it like a taco.
Oh my God.
Ate it like a taco, man. You know what I'm saying? And then you know, B-Dog got the itis. He goes over there, lays down. Next thing you know, look at Bobby Taylor. He sprawled out of a long chair. He sprawled out of his long chair. I'm looking at these guys like, yo, what is going on?
Yeah, where are we?
The turkey, man. It's the turkey, man.
dude.
Tryptophan.
Hey, speaking of Hollis Thomas, I used to do a radio show with Joe Kraus years ago, and we did it at the Chickies and Pete off of 476. And occasionally we would have Hollis on. So Chickies and Pete's was kind enough to give us free food, whatever we wanted. You know, their menu is superb.
Amazing.
Hollis would always order a whole pizza. And I'm talking, you know how big their pizzas are.
Yeah.
Those pizzas would be gone in 3 bites or less. I mean, he would fold the pizza in half and scarf. We gotta get Hollis on the show because this eating is legendary.
I've done shows with him too.
Yeah.
I know. I know he can get after it, man. Yeah, at a remote, that's for sure. All right, let's grab a quickie here, and we'll come back. As I promised, we'll dive into the schedule that came out yesterday for the Eagles. We'll also recap some of the things that Brian had to say, which were just fascinating, man. That's for sure. Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports Network.